Good evening, everyone. My name is Drew Gorgay. I'm with Peckham and McKenney. I'm the executive recruiter, and ours is the firm retained by the city of Cortez to help you find your next city manager. The mayor and council of the city of Cortez have opened this forum tonight so that all the citizens of Cortez can have a chance to interact or at least observe the three finalists for the city manager opportunity here in Cortez. The first candidate will get online in about 10 minutes at 5:40 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, and each candidate will have 20 minutes to answer a series of questions that I will be asking them. And there is about a 5-minute break between each candidate. And then after all three candidates have come into this Zoom webinar room and answered the questions one at a time, after all three of them have gone, at that point, I will be asking the public, anybody in the audience or anybody watching anywhere, for comments, and just tell us what you see. Tell us what questions you would like to make sure City Council answers tomorrow in the actual interviews tomorrow. I'll tell you more about that process and the entire process in just a minute. But to sort of give you the lay of the land, we have three candidates. Mr. Jerry Breckenridge will be appearing from 5:40 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mr. Drew Sanders will be appearing from 6:05 p.m. to 6:25 p.m. And Ms. Angie Sprang will be appearing from 6:30 to 6:50. So we will be capturing your feedback from 6:50 to 7:15 tonight. And if we need to go a little longer, we're happy to do that, I'm sure. I did want to give you some sense of what these candidates have already been through and what your city council has done. This process began way back on Groundhog Day for me on February 2nd. That's the night that I interviewed for the opportunity to be the recruiter to assist the city of Cortez in this very important process. Our firm was selected and we began work almost right away on February 12th. I had individual meetings with every member of your city council, trying to get a real understanding about Cortez and what the issues were. I had a meeting with the leadership team, with your current city manager, and tried to capture as much information as I could about what's going on here. And then we set out on a national search. Before I talk about the process anymore, it's very important for the citizens of Cortez to understand how seriously your city council has taken this process and how committed they are to making sure that you, the citizens, had a professional, transparent process from start to finish, and to make sure that this critical opportunity for you, citizen engagement and public comment, was made available to you. And also that we were very honest with everybody about the recent challenges in the city of Cortez, and really shining a light on the town and where you've been and where you are and where you're trying to go. So it's a real privilege for me to be connected to this process. Having captured all that information from the interviews, we then compiled the information into a candidate profile. The candidate profile was advertised nationwide. We had a filing deadline of March 25th. You had a very healthy response. 45 applicants responded to the opportunity, not just from Colorado, but from 17 other states. That is a good indicia of an effective national outreach for this opportunity. Colorado applicants represented just under a third of the pool at 31%. The balance, 69%, came from out of state. If you are interested in gender diversity, women make up 13.3% of the overall pool. Men, the balance, 86.7%. We always encourage all minority applicants, gender equity diversity, equity, inclusion, and encourage gender diversity as well. And we're happy to that's such a cornerstone value in our firm. From that number, we invited 13 persons to participate in preliminary interviews for various reasons, including getting jobs elsewhere. Some of those withdrew rather from the process. Your city council considered from 7 candidates how many would be invited tonight, and at the end of that, I was instructed to extend application to the 3 candidates that you have here tonight. So please know that these candidates have worked very, very hard to be here. And in addition to the normal submittals that you would see for a process like this, a resume and a cover letter, they were also asked to fill out a questionnaire. They were also engaged in a screening interview with me, and that city council worked very hard and reviewed all the material from all the applicants very carefully to try to find the very best fit for Cortez. So that's a basic summary of the process and how we got to the 3 candidates that we have tonight. Just so you know, these are the 4 questions that I will be asking each finalist as they come online. And they all know that they have 20 minutes, and they all know that I'll be the one asking the questions. First, I simply want them to introduce themselves to you. We know them because we've been seeing them through the interview process, but it's now time for you to know them. So they'll each have an opportunity to walk you through their professional path. Next, I'm very simply going to ask them why they want to be the city manager for Cortez. Why do you want to work here? The third question that I will ask is put it back to them and just make their case to you. Why should we hire you? Why should each candidate be the one to get the job? And we'll sit back and hear what they have to say. And then the fourth question has to do with accountability and public trust. In my opening remarks, I mentioned that it's very important to shine the light on the opportunity here in Cortez and to make sure that everybody knew the recent history and things that have gone on. And the citizens of Cortez should be absolutely clear how committed your mayor and council and your professional staff are to building a culture of accountability within city government, to being as transparent as possible, and to do every single thing that they can to rebuild public trust to the extent that that trust needs to be rebuilt. So the fourth and final question for each of your finalists, will have them speak to that. How will you build a culture of accountability within Cortez city government and rebuild the public trust? So those will be the 4 questions that are coming up to each of our finalists. We've got about 2 minutes before we begin with Jerry Breckenridge. And again, I'm very happy to be a part of this process and to be serving Cortez and your professional staff and your mayor and council, and of course, all of you citizens. Thank you. Jerry, good evening. Can you see us and hear us?
I can see you, Drew. Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Good.
It's 5:39 by my clock, so if you don't mind waiting just a couple seconds, I want to make sure we give everybody the same opportunities in the same amount of time, okay?
Not a problem.
There we go. Jerry, good evening and welcome. And I'm Drew Gorgay with Peckham and McKenney. And as you know, this is a public engagement and outreach session. You should know that the session is both being recorded now and also being streamed on the city's YouTube channel so that anyone who's not able to participate tonight will be able to see what happens.
Right.
I'm going to ask you 4 questions, and you have the balance of the time between now and the top of the hour to answer all 4. Please budget your time. And the first question is simply for you to introduce yourself to the citizens of Cortez, to the mayor and council, and just tell us about your professional path and how you came to be here tonight.
Absolutely. Well, my name is Jerry Breckenridge. I come from Arvin, California, where I'm currently the city manager. I've been involved in city government for going on 32 years. About 29 of those years were in law enforcement. I was in the city of Tulare for 26 years and then came to the city of Arvin in 2016 and have been there since. I always say this, but truth be told, it was never my aspiration to be a city manager. I liked being in law enforcement. I liked being a police chief. The opportunity came when my city manager left the city of Arvin, and I became the interim city manager while I was still the police chief. And I didn't apply for the city manager's position. I was waiting for them to hire somebody. We had a recruiting firm to do that. But after a few months, me and the executive team, we got a lot of stuff done. When my city manager left, we inherited a $1.8 million deficit and a negative audit from Caltrans, our state road organization, which was going to cost the city about $500,000. So when I took over as interim, I didn't just hold the fort down. I moved forward and tried to address those issues. And, in a few months, we had actually tackled both of those items. And I started having employees encourage me to apply for the position. Employee morale was up. The employees wanted stability. They were used to having a new city manager every 2 or 3 years, and they at least knew me. They knew me as the police chief, and they knew what they were getting. So they encouraged me to apply. So I ended up applying actually after the recruitment closed. We checked with the recruiting firm and the city attorney, and they said that we can do that. And so I went through the process and became city manager. So then I was city manager and interim police chief for another 6 months until I could hire another police chief. But my whole career really has been dedicated to government. Before I started in city government, I was in the military for 4 years. So, it's pretty much all I know. And quite honestly, the switch from law enforcement to city management, it's been refreshing. To me, the challenges are different, and they keep me sharp. And it's just a different set of challenges that I get to address with a larger team of employees that are subject matter experts in many different areas.
Hey, terrific, Jerry. The second question is about Cortez. Why do you want to work here? Why do you want to be the city manager for the city of Cortez?
Well, one thing I didn't mention when I was introducing myself is I just got married a couple of months ago, and my wife and I, we've been talking about leaving California. I don't think it's a secret that there are some challenges in California, and quite honestly, we're ready to move and finish out our careers or our time working in someplace that we enjoy. And my wife is a big animal lover and a big outdoors lover. And when I saw Cortez and started researching, I thought this could be a great fit for us. I think I have a lot to offer as a city manager to any city. And it sounds to me like Cortez has similar challenges to what Arvin has. And we were able to address those challenges. So coming into Cortez, I think that, again, I can bring a skill set that may be beneficial to the community.
Terrific. Thank you very much. And the third question is going to ask you to go into a little bit more detail there. And the question is, why should the mayor and council hire you? as opposed to any of the other finalists? Why should we hire you, Jerry?
Yeah, and I don't know what the other finalist responses will be, but I can tell you that throughout my career, even when I was in law enforcement, I've always paid attention to the city council, and I've always paid attention to the direction cities were going. And it's been very beneficial to me. It's helped me grow as a leader. When I was in Tulare, I was with the police chief all the time. And so I paid attention, and he taught me a lot of lessons when it comes to city councils and working with cities. And some of those lessons are, first off, is you work with the council as a whole. And if there's a vision, you go with it. It doesn't matter what your vision is. It matters what the council's vision is. And I've done that. I'm kind of in that process right now. My former council, we adopted an ordinance that addressed oil and gas production, actually put restrictions on it because that was their desire. I've got a council now who wants to change that around and reverse it. I'll do whatever the council wants. That's what I do. I've always referred to myself as a soldier. You give me marching orders and we carry it out. And I've been able to motivate the employees to do the same thing, letting them know that our personal preferences sometimes we can't let those interfere with the vision of the city. We have to go with what the council wants. The councils that I've dealt with in Arvin, they've been supportive. They've been unique in that one of my councils, most of them were under the age of 30. So they had very fresh ideas and very ambitious ideas, but we carried them out. I've got a more mature council now, and the direction's changing a little bit, but we're able to adjust. And I think, again, my history coming up through the ranks has helped prepare me for that.
Thank you very much. The fourth question has to do with the public and the relationship between Cortez government and the public and its citizens. And the candidate profile document that we sent out was very clear about recent challenges in Cortez. And the questions that I'm going to ask you next, it goes to the heart of that. So how will you help build a culture of accountability within city government? And along with that, what will you do to help rebuild the public trust?
I've been working on that in Arvin, and it's a challenge. Arvin is a disadvantaged rural community, 93% Hispanic, so there's a language barrier that we work with as well. But the same concerns have been voiced in Arvin as far as accountability, transparency. We've tried to make everything available to our community, either if it's through a public records request or if they just want to meet. I've always had an open door policy where I encourage people to meet with me. My philosophy is I'll tell you everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. If there's something ugly going on in the city and I can talk about it, I'll tell you. It doesn't do us any good to hold things back, short of whatever's discussed in closed session, which is restricted. There's really nothing that the city can't communicate to the community. And I've been trying to say that budgets, tax measures, projects, all of that, I've got no issue delivering that information to the community. My hope is in Cortez, there are avenues to do that. I used to say I'm not big on committees because they're time consuming, but in this respect, I think committees can be valuable. If there are concerns, I think for me, it's been valuable to get a group of people together so you can address it. I'll give you an example. In Arvin, there is a committee called the Committee for a Better Arvin. And prior to me becoming chief, hardly any city official would visit with this committee, because when they met with the committee, the city officials were basically hammered with all of these concerns, and it became overwhelming. I went there as police chief, and they even said, we're going to beat you up, but we want answers and we want things done. And I met with them, and then almost on a quarterly basis, I continue to meet with them. And I'll tell you, the concerns became less and less. And what it did is it gave me the opportunity to report back to the committee that we've done things, that we've addressed their concerns. And it improved relations with that committee immensely. And I don't see why that can't be done here. I've done the same thing with employees where, we've had employee concerns, and I created groups of employees to meet with me and tell me, what are your concerns? I've done that same with the bargaining units, our two unions that we work with. I've made myself available to them. So I'm not opposed to forming meetings, whether they're quarterly or, twice a year. I'm not opposed to people calling or meeting with me. I always say that, listen, if whatever we're doing is legal, ethical, and moral, I think we're fine. And that's always been my stance. So if we're doing everything legal, ethical, and moral, there should be nothing that we have to hide. The information should be made public. The word transparency is a buzzword. I get it, but it makes a lot of sense because people want to know. And, a lot of people don't know that a lot of this information it's available. It's available through council agendas. It's available through a Public Records Act request. The information is available, but sometimes it's better to be digested along with the city officials so they can kind of explain it. So hopefully that addressed your question.
Yes, thank you very much. And for the record, the public announcement for tonight's session apparently said that the public would be allowed to ask questions, and I do have a few members of the public sending questions. It's very important to treat all the candidates the same. And what I'm going to do, we do still have some time, Jerry. I'm going to just ask quickly one or two more questions based on comments that I've been receiving through text.
Sure.
And our goal will be, of course, to ask all the same questions of all of the finalists. Mm-hmm. So the next question for you, Jerry, is this: that cities and their staff members regularly deal with difficult and sometimes contentious issues. Generally speaking, how do you support your staff?
Well, to me, the staff is what makes us successful. And I am a very strong advocate for staff. And if you ask my staff now, I'm sure they'll tell you the same thing. What I try to do, though, is if the staff is entangled in some of these issues, I try to explain both sides of the story, because I also understand that these issues that involve the city and the employees, there are two sides to the story. And again, one of the things I've learned throughout my career is empathize with the other party. Sometimes their concerns are absolutely right on. And I've told that to my staff, like, hey, they got a good point. And we've actually made changes based on those concerns. So I support the staff, but I also try to educate them on the other half, letting them know what the other side of the story is so we can empathize with the other side.
All right. Jerry, I appreciate it. You still have a few minutes, and I wanted to correct one thing that I said. I now have information from the city that we would be capturing citizen comments at the end, as I had originally said, not fielding questions during. So I will make sure that the other two finalists answer the exact same questions that you did, Jerry. And with your remaining time, feel free to just say anything more that you would like to say during this session, okay?
Okay. Well, first off, I appreciate the opportunity. I really do. It's been a long day for my wife and I. We started this trek at 3 o'clock this morning, and you can tell I'm a little raspy because we've been up for so long. But I'll tell you, coming into Cortez, it's beautiful, and I can see us living here. It's what we want. But I also understand that this position involves fit. I get that. When I went through 3 chiefs candidates before I can hire a police chief because there wasn't that fit. And I think that is very important. So I appreciate the community sitting in on this session so they can hear from each candidate and they can decide part of that fit as well. I understand it's the council and the mayor who make the decision, but it does have to be a good partnership, because I don't want to come here and have to leave. My intentions are finishing out my career here, and if it's a questionable hire, that's not what I want. I want full support of the community and full support of the council, because I think we both deserve that. The community deserves it, and I deserve it. But from what we've seen of Cortez so far, we really like it. We'll be here for tomorrow, and we'll leave Saturday, so we'll have some more time to explore. But again, I do appreciate the opportunity. I think I have a lot to offer. I think that, my career, although a majority of it was in law enforcement, it prepared me for the city manager job. It's interesting when people ask me how I like being city manager and how do you deal with the stress, and I tell them that the stress is different. In law enforcement, even as a chief, when things happen, you have to make decisions very quickly. And sometimes those decisions aren't right. But you have to make them, because there are people waiting on you to make those decisions. And that's stressful. At least with city manager, most of the decisions that we have to make, we have time. I can take it back to staff. We can staff the options. We can go over the pros and cons, how it's going to affect. We can play the tape out, and we can do all that. So for me, I'm kind of appreciating that after doing, law enforcement for almost 30 years. So I like the job, and it's just, again, it's a matter of finding the right place for us to land.
Jerry, thank you so much. And on behalf of the citizens of Cortez and the mayor and council and the current manager and staff and myself and Peckham and McKinney, thank you so much for tonight. Good luck tomorrow. And if you wouldn't mind logging out of the Zoom room, we'll see you in the morning. Hello?
Looks like your video froze.
Mine?
All right, it's back.
Okay. Some technical difficulties there that everybody, after 15 months of COVID and what seemed like 5 years of Zoom, has come to expect almost. Jerry, thank you so much. If you wouldn't mind just logging out, I just meant to tell you good luck tomorrow. And on behalf of the citizens of Cortez and the mayor and council, manager and staff, and me and my firm, thanks for all the effort. Get a good night's sleep. We'll see you in the morning.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
You're welcome, sir. All right. So we're going to take a break until 5 minutes past the hour. And I did want to clarify the record while we're doing that. The press release for regarding the search, the April 16th press release does say that there will be no direct interaction between the candidates and the public, but that when all the candidates have completed their portion, I'll open the meeting up to public input on each candidate via Zoom. So I'm happy to take text comments now until 5 past the hour, or as we had originally planned, just save it all for 6:50 p.m. tonight. And I'm happy to take them then. And I'm also happy to give you my email. If you're watching this in hours outside of the live time, feel free to email all of your comments to me about any of the candidates to the following email address. And it's a long one. It is drew@peckhamandmckinney.com. So that is DREW at Peckham, PECKHAM. Then you spell out the word AND, and McKinney is all E's, McKenney.com, drew@peckhamandmckinney.com. Feel free to text your comments now or email them to me later. And we are on break. We'll be starting back up in about 1 minute. And just a reminder to all members of the public that at 6:50 tonight, we will be taking all of your comments. And feel free to send me comments during these presentations as well. I'll repeat my email address later if you want to send me your comments by email. Drew, can you see me and hear me?
I can see and hear you now.
Well, good evening and welcome. How are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you? Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, no problem whatsoever. Drew, I wanted to introduce you to the citizens of Cortez, Colorado, to mayor and council, to manager and staff, all of whom are watching you right now. And this portion of the finalist interview process is being recorded, and it's also being telecast on Cortez YouTube channel, so that citizens who are unable to be here in this time block can get to know you a little bit later on their own time. We have 20 minutes for you, and we'll have a hard stop at 25 minutes past the hour. A total of 5 questions tonight. And if you build in enough time for yourself, you'll also have a chance to give some closing comments. And the first question is simply for you to introduce yourself to the citizens of Cortez, and just walk us through your career, if you would, and tell us how you came to be here tonight.
Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to address you. As you know, my name is Drew Sanders. I just recently retired as Chief of Police at the Page, Arizona Police Department. I served 30 years of law enforcement, so I'm looking forward to transitioning into a different role. I did the bulk of my career at the West Jordan Police Department, which is a city of about 120,000 people, located 8 miles south of Salt Lake City, Utah. I was educated at the University of Utah. I earned my master's degree in public administration. I'm also a graduate of the FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia. I really feel like my law enforcement experience and all the roles that I have had really come into play and will benefit the city of Cortez. My strengths certainly are in the areas of leadership, finance, public policy, public relations, crisis and emergency communication, and emergency management. I also come to the table with a background in both public policy and finance from different perspectives, certainly in the finance role, not only from government, but in the private and public sectors as well. I feel that I am very multidimensional. I bring a lot to the table and a lot of wealth of experience that I can bring to bear for the city of Cortez. I certainly believe in the principles of good government that involve accessibility, transparency, and certainly stewardship of precious resources. I consider myself to be a strong servant leader as well as an ethical leader. And I feel like all these strengths I bring to bear will certainly benefit you here in Cortez.
Thanks very much, Drew. The next question is a why question. Why do you want to work here? Why do you want to be the city manager for Cortez, Colorado?
Well, thank you. As I mentioned, I'm trying to transition out of law enforcement into a city management role. However, after living in Page, I've absolutely, fell in love with it. I love the people there. I love the diversity of our city. I can just go on and on. The problem is we have a really good city manager in Page, and I don't think he's leaving anytime soon. So I've really wanted to look for somewhere that's similar to Page, and lo and behold, the situation or the opportunity in Cortez came open. And since these cities are so similarly situated, I feel that I'm very well geared to help the city of Cortez, much like I could and did help the city of Page. So that's why I want to do it. Cortez is an area that I've appreciated and recreated in and around for a long time. And I just feel like I bring a lot to the table that I could benefit here and have a good home for my family.
Terrific. Thank you. Now let's kind of turn that around a little bit and let you make your case. Why should you be the one that the mayor and council hire to be the city manager for Cortez? Why should they hire you instead of anybody else?
Right. Well, as I said, I bring a wealth of experience. I certainly have the knowledge to help with the problems here in Cortez, but also beyond that, helping into the future on where we're going to go as a city. I'm excited about the possibilities in Page. I see the potential here in Cortez, and I want to have the opportunity to help this city move into the future. After looking at the strategic plan here, I really feel like I fit those values. I fit your goals. I fit into how this city is run. Secondly, it certainly coming from the outside, and when I came to Page, it is not easy to transition into a different environment like this. When I say that, I'm talking about the diversity of partnerships and so on, with the National Park Service, with the county and city relationship, with the Indian Reservation. I've been very successful in working with the Navajo Nation and expect to bring that to bear at the city of Cortez as well. Not to mention that I've had experience with, a lot of leadership experience, and certainly through COVID-19, and I was on the city manager's leadership team for that. And I understand how the smaller communities like this work, especially ones situated like Page and Cortez. Also, I'm somebody that's, I bring to bear my experience in being able to address challenges. And when I say that, I knew when I went to the city of Page, it was not going to be easy because of the lack of resources, where it's located and so on. But I willingly took that on, and I am so grateful that I did, because now not only have I left my mark on the city of Page, but I have that experience to bear that I can bring to the city of Cortez. And my ramp up time and everything is going to be very, very minimal in trying to help here. Lastly, I am certainly a strong advocate and team member at my organization and my last two organizations. And I have had the ability to bring to bear my networking ability, my knowledge, my skills, and everything to bear to have successful outcomes at my previous organizations. Therefore, I think it stands to reason that I can bring that here to Cortez as well.
Thank you very much, Drew. The candidate profile document that advertised the city manager opportunity in Cortez was very clear about some recent history in the city and some major challenges that they've had in recent years. So the question has to do with that. What would you do to help the city council build a culture of accountability in Cortez city government? And to the extent that public trust needs to be restored, public trust in government, what would you do to rebuild the public trust? So how will you build a culture of accountability, and what will you do to restore public trust?
Well, thank you. I'd like to segment that question out into two different areas. When we talk about a cultural accountability, I think the obvious elephant in the room is the problem we had on the finance department. So I'll start there. Although I don't know all the details of what happened there, I understand what is causing and the fallout from that. I can tell you from my experience in the credit union industry, government and the private sector, that what is needed there are strong internal controls. I suspect those are already in place. But what we need to do is be able to show the community that we have those controls, and then it kind of goes back to the rule of holes. You know, the first rule of holes is when you find yourself in a hole, you stop digging. Second rule of holes is you got to find a way to get out of the hole. The third rule of holes is you got to find a way not to fall back into the hole. And therefore, that's where I'm saying we got to be very sure that we have strong internal controls in place, that we can demonstrate that to the community. I would take and certainly meet with Director Koski on this and her team, find out what the problems are, exactly what we're up against, and what our controls are, and what we need to do. And I can bring to bear the internal control issue and get that situated to where we can demonstrate that to the community. Secondly, I would like to recommend that we implement something like there's a system called ClearGov, which is a software system where it would work with the Cassell financial management system, where the public can just literally go on the website, hit that link, and see exactly where their money is going. Lastly, on the finance side is I would want to keep the city council informed, and then I would want to give regular updates to the community on where we're at, demonstrable progress. Lastly, I would like to work toward not only fixing the problem, but making sure that we show in the future that we've got somebody else telling us, or telling the community that we're doing a good job. So I'd like to see the GFO, or Government Financial Officers Association, award for our budget in the future. And that comes with them testing and understanding what our internal controls are. Then on the just outside of accountability for employees and for each other, I can tell you that accountability starts with me. I always kind of talk to those around me about filling that reservoir of trust that we rely on so heavily. Certainly that goes to our legitimacy as a government agency, but also that reservoir of trust. What did we do today or otherwise, either fill or drain that reservoir of trust? And that really starts at our front door. That starts with our hiring decisions. I tend to think about hiring decisions in terms of hiring risk, not so much what we're going to build, what we're going to do as an agency or a city government, but who's going to build it, who's going to help us make that happen. And that starts at our front door. I tend to look at those employees, my fellow employees, as not just looking at their position as a job, but more as a responsibility. What am I responsible for? What do if I don't do my job, what happens? Again, that starts at our front door with our hiring decisions. So with that, again, I will sum up that accountability starts with me. Additionally, we need to have clear policies and so on in place, and employees have to know those policies. And then it comes with good hiring practices and so on. Additionally, it's that one last piece on this is that transparency piece. And that's kind of becoming a buzzword in our community anymore, but it has some meaning. I like to look at it more as not just transparency in what the government is doing, because you can see that, especially if you ask. But secondly, accessibility. How easy are we to get a hold of? Because in the government world, and we're not like a private business. A private business, if you don't like what that business is doing, you can walk away. In government, you don't have anywhere else to go. So it behooves us to provide good government, accessible government, and transparent government. By doing that, that's how we build that culture of accountability amongst our people. Again, moving from this is my job to a feeling of this is my responsibility. Thank you.
Very much, Drew. The next question has to do with you and your staff. And working in local government, cities and their staffs regularly deal with difficult issues, sometimes contentious issues. So generally speaking, in those cases, how do you support your staff?
Well, certainly just right up front, you support the staff. But, you know, it's all about getting at the facts, and finding out, you know, what the problems are. Talking is the best cure to almost all of this. And if we're accessible and willing to discuss contentious issues, I can tell you that that's how we get our greatest successes. I can tell you that how I handle contentious issues with residents and so on, and there's some very strong feelings out there, and there should be, and that's okay. But what I try to do is talk about, you know what, I see your perspective, and guess what, you're right. And very often they are absolutely correct in where they're coming from. But have you thought about this other perspective? And by bringing in other perspectives, almost always, they may not like it, but they will have to respect that there are other perspectives out there. Also, by teaching, you know, and I certainly think our senior staff here, at least from what I know about them, are very, very capable people. And it's certainly just making sure that we're following policy and, you know, providing good government.
Drew, thank you very much. And those are all of the questions that we have, and you do still have a few minutes. So feel free to sort of make closing comments here. Tell the citizens of Cortez anything that you would like them to know that we haven't covered. Same for mayor and council and staff. Go right ahead.
Well, I'd just like to say that I'm not coming into this lightly. I thought about this. In fact, I think I sent my application in the very last day because I wanted to be very clear with my family and with my abilities and what was looked for here in the city of Cortez, whether I would be able to fulfill this role adequately. And I feel very strongly that I bring that skill set that you need to the table. I feel very strongly that I have the experience to not only work with city government, but also help with our community partners. And when I talk about that, I'm talking about the Navajo Nation, I'm talking about the Ute Nation, I'm talking about the National Park Service, the county, so on. I am a natural networker, and I tend to build very, very strong relationships. And I have been able to bring those to bear for the benefit of my organizations. And I bring that to the table here. I have a lot of relationships already to bring to bear, as well as a wealth of experience, not only in the finance world, but leadership and so on in the various areas this city seems to need. And therefore, I'm asking you to give me an opportunity to serve you as residents, serve you, city council, and serve with you, employees. Thank you.
Drew, you're welcome. And on behalf of the citizens of Cortez and mayor and council, manager, staff, everybody who's online, a sincere welcome to you and your family to Cortez tonight. Hope you have a good night's sleep. And we wish you the very best luck tomorrow in the interview process. And thanks again. And if you could sign off, we'd appreciate that. We'll see you tomorrow. Okay.
Will do. Good night, everybody.
Yes, sir. Did want to just share the screen. This is my email address. Again, it is drew@peckhamandmckenny.com, drew@peckhamandmckenny.com. If you have comments that you would like City Council to consider tomorrow as they deliberate following their interviews with the three finalists, please feel free to send them to me. I'm very grateful for all the comments that have come in during this session. I'll take this off now. Just please understand that the way the format is set up, we're trying to be fair to all three candidates, ask them all the exact same questions, and we can't really facilitate in these times of COVID the same kind of direct interaction that we would. What I will tell the public is that your city council was committed to having this public engagement and outreach session. It was critically important to them to be transparent, to give some sort of access to the public in this way, and that not all the communities that our firm has served have chosen to do that because of COVID. So please be proud of the commitment that your mayor and council has to what they're asking these finalists about: a culture of accountability, transparency, and rebuilding the public trust. It's 24 minutes past the hour. We'll have our next candidate at the bottom of the hour for 20 minutes, after which we will take public comment. So see you in a few minutes. Hello, everyone. We're going to start back in just a minute or two. Angie, good evening. Can you see us and hear us?
I can. Can you see me and hear me?
Yes, absolutely. We sure can. We're gonna start in just under a minute.
No rush.
Angie, good evening and welcome to the city of Cortez. And everyone, this is Angie Sprang. Angie, I should let you know that this session is being recorded and it's also being broadcast live on the City of Cortez YouTube channel so that citizens who are unable to attend live during this time block will have a chance to review all the finalists and then comment later. So just please know that that's going on. And your audience right now are the citizens of Cortez, mayor and council, manager and staff, representatives from the Department of Local Affairs, and anybody else who has an interest in the outcome of the process. You have 20 minutes to answer 5 questions, and all the questions will be coming from me. At the end of your time, we'll ask you to log out, and then we'll be seeing you in the morning. But for now, if you could please just introduce yourself to the citizens of Cortez, mayor and council, and then I'll have the other questions for you after that.
All right. Well, my name is Angie Sprang. Pardon me. I am currently the town manager over in Green Mountain Falls, Colorado. Before that, I worked for the town of Carbondale, and Drew reached out to me about this opportunity and sparked my interest. So I'm happy to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to meet with y'all.
Thank you. And can you give us your background beyond that?
Sure. So I've been in local government for about 5 years. I started out working in the town of Carbondale, Colorado, which is over in the Roaring Fork Valley on the West Slope. And I completed a master's in political science focused in politics and public policy, concurrently with the DOLA Best and Brightest internship program in the town of Carbondale. Jay Harrington is my mentor there. He's a really great city manager. Before that, I worked in everything from higher education to human resources to healthcare, and city management's my thing. So I'm glad I finally found it.
All right. Thank you, Angie. The next question is a why question regarding Cortez. Why do you want to work here? And why do you want to be the city manager for the city of Cortez?
Well, the Western Slope is home. It's the reason I moved to Colorado, and that was the #1 probably reason for my application to the city of Cortez. Is just that I'd love to be back on the West Slope.
Okay. The next question is why should you be the one that mayor and council hire? Why should they hire you?
Well, I think that whomever you choose to hire should be the right fit for your community, for your board, and for your community ultimately. And if that's me, then great. But ultimately, it needs to be the right fit for your community.
Angie, the next question is, how will you build a culture of accountability and addressing issues of public trust? When we had the candidate profile document that advertised the position, the document was very express about recent challenges that the community has faced and had to deal with dealing specifically with city government. So if you are the one chosen as city manager, how will you build a culture of accountability, and how will you rebuild public trust here in Cortez?
It's first of all really unfortunate that you all had to go through an issue, something that diminished public trust. Those things happen. Basically, it happened, and you can just pick up and rebuild and make it right as much as you can and move on. And ultimately, trust takes time to build with anyone, with any community, and just patience, being transparently accurate, not just accurate, but I think transparently accurate. By that, I mean communicating with the public in such a way that they understand what you're communicating with them. Especially finances are not always the easiest thing to communicate. It's oftentimes over a lot of people's head. And anyway, just patience.
All right. Angie, the next question has to do with you and your staff. That cities and their staffs regularly deal with difficult and sometimes contentious issues. Generally speaking, how do you support your staff?
Gosh, how do I support my staff? Something I do, I guess I don't really think about verbalizing the answer to that question, Drew. Throw the tough ones out there. So, I mean, supporting my staff. We're a really small staff in Carbondale, or not in Carbondale. I'm in Green Mountain Falls now. We're a really small staff. There's 7 of us, and so we work really closely together every day. And I'd say we have each other's back relentlessly in everything. I understand who they are. They know who I am. I know who they are. And we just make it work, no matter how tough it gets or whatever's going on.
Okay, Angie, those are actually all the questions that I have for you. And you still have quite a bit of time left. So feel free to tell the citizens of Cortez, mayor and council, manager and staff, and everybody who's listening, anything more that you want them to know about you.
I just really appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight, and thank you for your consideration. And I look forward to going through the rest of the process and getting to know some of you better. And hopefully we'll find the right fit for Cortez through this process.
Angie, thank you very much. And on behalf of all the people that I just named, the citizens and mayor and council, manager and staff, welcome to Cortez. Get a good night's sleep, and good luck to you tomorrow, okay?
Thanks so much for your time. Have a good
All
evening.
right. All right. Thank you. Okay, so that leaves us between now and 1:15 to receive comments from any source. And rather than taking a break and starting at 6:50, I'm happy to take any of those comments now. And we will keep the channel open, the question and answer feature open. Comments from any source or anybody, feel free to send them my way. I will put my email address up one more time for anybody who wants to send comments directly. It's drew@peckhamandmckinney.com. I won't spell out the letters again. It's right there, drew@peckhamandmckinney.com. Feel free to email me there, or submit your comments now through the question and answer function on the Zoom webinar. And we will wait and keep this open until 7:15. That's what we advertised. And thank you very much for watching all this. Thank you. And let's see. Here's a question that I just received. Are we sending our questions solely to you, or should we copy anyone else on the email? All comments that are sent to me at this email address will be shared with mayor and council when they deliberate following their own interviews tomorrow morning. So the answer is you need not copy anybody other than me. Just know that anything that you send to me will be shared with mayor and council. Thank you. Thank you. I am receiving some questions and comments. The next one was just a request to talk about what happens next. What happens next is tomorrow your city council will convene a special meeting at 8 o'clock. They will adjourn immediately to executive session in accordance with Colorado open meeting law to consider personnel matters, employment matters, and they sitting as a council will interview each of the three candidates that you saw tonight. There will also be a panel interview comprised of a subset of the city's leadership team. And at the conclusion of all those interviews, the city staff will report their findings, basically, pros and cons on each of the three finalists to the city council, and city council will then deliberate, and under the law they're allowed to instruct negotiators, that would be me in this case, regarding a preferred candidate. So that is what will happen next. Good question, and thank you. Thank you. And we've had a series of questions about specific questions directed to all the candidates. And some of these have to do with experience in community development or water law or capital improvements, or similar issues facing the Cortez community, like economic development and a whole host of other questions. Please know that the questions that have been designed in the panel interviews or questions that they've already answered have drawn a lot of this information out in advance so that city council and the mayor can make an informed decision tomorrow. So thank you for these questions. So we have 30 more minutes in this session. We will keep the webinar on through our advertised time through 7:15. And this is broadcast on the city's YouTube channel. I have received quite a few questions and through the webinar chat feature. And I've also received some email comments. So thank you very much for taking the time to observe and give input and to really make this a better process. Thank you very much for doing that. It's now 6:50 Mountain Daylight Time here in Cortez, Colorado, and this was the time that we had announced that we would begin taking public comment tonight. We've actually received quite a bit of public comment so far already through the question and answer function on the Zoom webinar and also by email. If you're just now joining us because you want to comment or you think that this was the start time for comments, feel free to make those now. And you can either use the chat function that I talked about, or if you prefer, feel free to send them to this email address, drew@peckhamandmckinney.com. I will assure you that your comments and feedback do make it to mayor and council tomorrow. So we really appreciate your time and attention to this very important process. And again, your mayor and council and all of the members of the professional staff are completely committed to excellence and professionalism, transparency, building a culture of accountability within Cortez city government, and doing everything that needs to be done to build and maintain, honor and respect public trust to the extent that remains an issue here in Cortez. So again, we thank you and feel free to share your comments however you like. We will be online on this webinar channel and on the YouTube channel through 7:15 p.m., about 24 more minutes. All right, it is 7 o'clock. And if you're just joining us, we are in the last 15 minutes of the public engagement and citizen outreach portion of the Cortez City Manager recruitment process, the finalist interview process. And we will be online on this webinar feed, Zoom webinar, as well as the live broadcast onto the YouTube channel until 7:15, about 15 more minutes. If you have any sort of comments or questions, feel free to use the question and answer function on Zoom, or if you prefer to email or you're watching this at a time other than the live broadcast, you can just email your comments, to this email address, drew@peckhamandmckinney.com, and I will receive them there and make sure that they're shared with mayor and council. So thank you very much, and thanks for participating. embarrassment. I think you're in the wrong field. All right, we have 5 more minutes remaining in the session tonight. 5 more minutes to take any sort of questions or comments from the public, either through the question and answer function on the Zoom webinar channel, or later by email to drew@peckhamandmckenny.com at 7:15. In 5 minutes, we will be exiting the webinar and shutting this down. We really appreciate your time and attention. If you gave comments, if you're watching this later, thanks for watching. And if you have comments, feel free to email them to me on the email address that was up earlier, the one that I just said, drew@peckhamandmckenny.com. Thank you again. Hey, so in our final minute, I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of the mayor and city council for Cortez, on behalf of your current manager and all the professional staff. Thank you to everybody who watched our 3 finalists tonight for the Cortez city manager opportunity: Jerry Breckenridge, Drew Sanders, and Angie Sprang. All 3 candidates continue in the finalist interview process tomorrow morning in executive session with the city council, in a panel interview, and also a panel interview with members of the leadership team, the senior management team in the city of Cortez. The city council is completely committed to having a professional, accountable, transparent process and to rebuilding the public trust here in Cortez. I'm Drew Gorgay with Peckham and McKenney. Thank you so much for joining us, and good night.